Do you want to mute your mic? Want to mute your mic? All right, good evening to everyone who has joined the online session so far. We're just opening up so everyone can join. We will go ahead and get started in a few minutes, so hang tight. And I'm just going to hit mute here, but yeah, we'll get started in a couple minutes. I just want to update for those who've joined the online session. We're getting started in just a couple minutes, just waiting for some of the last people in person to join us, and then we will go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Just one more time for those online who've joined since. We're just waiting on one more family to show up in the room, and then we will go ahead and get started.
Okay, everybody, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. My name is Peter Breyer. I'm the manager of domestic recruitment here at Laurentian University. And it's our pleasure to welcome you tonight to an evening of lots of questions, hopefully even more answers, and just to have a good time and a good conversation around the applicant journey and how you, as parents, as guardians, as supporters, can bring a student through this process and take some of the, we'll say, pressure, some of the concern away from the whole process. We want you to be an ally through this process to help them go through. So a few things on my end as we get started. Oop. All right. Aha. Oh, too far. Okay. There we go. So the first thing, we want to acknowledge the Robinson-Huron Treaty and recognize that Laurentian University is situated on the traditional lands of the Atikameksheng and Anishinaabe First Nations. We also want to make sure that as your students are coming into Laurentian University, that you understand that there are over 250 different experiences that any student can participate in to learn about Indigenous culture, language, have experience through their program and also through this facility, through the Indigenous Sharing and Learning Center. This is open for any student to learn about Indigenous peoples, cultures, so on and so forth. We want you to make sure you take advantage of that as students. Before I throw it over to Catherine, who will be guiding you through this entire as your MC for the night, there's a few housekeeping things that we want to get in order. So for those of you online, if you do have a question, know that after every single session, after every section of our presentation, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. Drop those questions in the chat and we will respond to them. Don't hold on to your questions. A question for the audience. How do you ask a question? Show of hands. That's close. How do we ask a question? Now we're going to pick on you because you volunteered. How do you ask a question? Show me again. Bingo. This is not asking a question. This is feeling guarded. No, a question is important. It's got to get an answer, right? I have a question, Peter, and it needs addressing. Or Catherine, you have to be strict with me. You ask your questions as they come up. Yes, we will have sections for questions, but you ask them. They are important. Now, I recognize I have been with this institution for the last 10 years, and I have had hard conversations with parents, students, guardians, with everyone. Conversations can be hard, but how we get to those conversations can have a little bit of levity, can have some humor, can have some fun, can have some engagement. So if there is a question that is burning in the back of your mind and it's hard to ask, don't approach us with the question. Approach us with a question about who we are as recruiters, as employees of the institution. Approach Catherine, ask her who her favorite artist is. Catherine? Yeah, Taylor Swift. Ask Mona about becoming a grandmother for the first time in the last week, right? Start these conversations with us in a way that we can have some engagement with you and let us get to the hard conversation and the hard topics. Doesn't have to be that way right from the beginning. We can get there, okay? So now I will turn it over to Catherine, who will bring you through tonight's presentation as the MC and introduce all of these fine people to my right when their section comes. But Catherine, floor is yours. Thank you very much, everybody.
Just going to close this. Perfect. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Catherine Kettle, and I am a liaison coordinator with the Office of Domestic Recruitment. So my job primarily for the entire fall is traveling to the high schools and chatting with your students in their grade 12 classes. So my route this year was Northwestern Ontario for the first month, and then GTA for the last 2 months. So if you saw me, maybe as a parent, or if your child saw me, send me a message in the chat. It would be really cool to connect. But I'm a grad of Laurentian. I did my Bachelor of Science, and I'm a current MBA student also at Laurentian. And I'm here today to tell you that my path to post-secondary education was not linear, and that is totally okay. And for a lot of people, it really isn't linear. So when I was, some of the grade 12s in the room, when I was your age, I made an application to a few different universities as well. And I chose to accept an offer at a different institution back when I was 17. So I went to a much, much larger university, and I found it just wasn't a good fit for me because the classes were really big. I never really got to chat with my professors one-on-one. I found my grades dropped a little bit, and I just wasn't having the greatest time. So midway through my university experience, I made a transfer to Laurentian. So I came here in my 4th year. And at that point, everything really changed for me. So my grades started going up by a lot. My classes got a lot smaller. I remember I had a course the first semester that I actually transferred here. And it was a class of about 20 students. I wasn't the type to really engage in my classes. I was kind of shy, but my professor was handing back the first midterm we had written, and she put it right in front of me on my desk. And she knew my name without me even having to talk to her before. And that was really, really cool and kind of night and day from the experience I previously had. And so I love Laurentian for that. And then with that new experience, I started getting really involved on campus. So you can see a couple things that I did during my university experience. On the left-hand side, that's me volunteering for Exam Wishes, which is a really fun initiative where alumni donate to the students on campus to purchase coffee, snacks, lunch as they're studying for exams. And then they have runners, you can see in my running shoes, and the volunteers run the snacks to the students on campus as they're studying. So it's really fun, and it's all through social media, which is pretty cool. The top right-hand corner is myself on a free rental day for cross-country skiing. So I got to go out and use the trails behind campus. I learned cross-country skiing is actually not as hard as I thought. And then the bottom right-hand corner is me at Queen's Park in Toronto. So I actually ran for student government when I was a student here. I was the VP Policy and Advocacy. So that's just part of an advocacy week. If we have anyone in the room, students that like to be involved, that's a really cool opportunity to get involved. So I think it's just thinking again here. Or maybe it's just because this is here. There we go. Yeah, I'm clicking the arrows. Okay, it just needed time to think. There we go. So we are covering quite a bit tonight. So we do have introductions. You're going to meet me as well as everyone else from the different service units that we have here about parts of the university. We'll talk a little bit about Laurentian at a glance. We have admissions, so the offer that your student has received, awards and fees, scholarships, tuition, all that fun stuff. Program support, so how your students' individual program staff can help them on their journey. Support and wellness services, and we actually have a counselor from the counseling team here tonight, residents applying and moving in and all of that. And then we'll just recap with some important dates at the end. So for everyone who is here tonight, if you haven't grabbed one yet, we actually have little handouts at the back there. So that just has some information. If you didn't pick one up at the start, you can grab one at the end. But for those of us who are tuning in online, just use this QR code and you can see all the same materials online. So I'll just leave it up for a couple of seconds so everyone can access that. If you open your camera app and scan it, a little button will pop up with a link and you can click it. So there we go. So I introduced myself, you know a little bit about me. I do love Taylor Swift. Now I just want to know, where are you from? So for those online, please use the chat to let us know. For those in the room, I'm assuming most of us are from the Sudbury area. Am I correct in assuming that? Anyone a little bit on the outskirts of Sudbury or a little farther away? Maybe. Garson, thank you for making the drive in.
We have one person tuning in from New Brunswick,
Wow, okay.
one person from Hearst, Hamilton, Brampton, Strathroy, Stayner, Petawawa,
Wow.
Toronto, Bracebridge.
Nice. That's awesome. That is a lot of the different parts of Ontario. So I love to hear it. My next question, what program is your student considering? Anyone in the room wanna start us off?
Here's where we have the awkward conversation.
Yes. Okay, concurrent ed. Excellent. Anybody else? Mining engineering. Nice. History. Cool. Mechanical engineering. Business. Wonderful.
Okay, social work or psychology.
Nice. Awesome. I think you can do a minor in psych with social work.
You have some people in line justice, ADVL, biochem, concurrent ed, architecture, biomed, con ed with outdoor venture leadership, nursing, earth sciences, social work, quite a bit of different ones.
Okay, so wow, that covers all the faculties at Laurentian. That's awesome. We have two mics. We have my mic here and then a mic on the table as well. So people are hearing this as we go. Okay, so my next question here for the parents. How comfortable are you with your students starting university next year on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being a little bit nervous or hesitant, and then 10 being, oh, this is your 4th child and you've done this 3 times already. They're gonna be fine. What would you say?
Negative score is fine as well.
So I'm hearing a 9. Anyone though? Anyone for real? Yeah, a 9. Okay, wonderful. Are we getting any responses online?
So we have -5,
That's fair.
but it's all trolling around the 7 mark right now. A couple of 3s, 1, 2. So
Okay, sounds good. So if your response was a 1 to 3 or even a -5, thank you for being here tonight, because this is why we are hosting these sessions, to bring you up to speed on everything you need to know. And if you're anywhere in the 7 to 10 range, I'm really happy you're comfortable. I would encourage you or challenge you to take the information you learned tonight and speak with a peer that you know that also has a student applying to post-secondary, and be the ambassador for Laurentian, be that champion in helping them to get to the same place as you. And then my last question I have, we don't have to do out loud right now, but it's, what do you hope to learn during tonight's session? So you all have little papers in front of you and pens. If you don't have a pen, there are some in those guides in the back, but just write down everything you're wondering and what you need to know before next year. So we will come back to this at the end, but just so you can remember what you're willing to learn, and then we'll address those questions later on. And if you're tuning in from online, just write it down on your phone or your computer or a piece of paper near you. So I'll give everyone like 20 seconds just to jot that down, and then we can keep going. Okay, so I will dive in, or I see people writing, maybe like 10 more seconds. So I'll chat a little bit more about Laurentian University and our campus itself. If any of your students or your children came to one of our sessions in their classroom this fall, they got this information already, but this is maybe the first time for parents, so we'll just go through it quickly. So this here is a photo of our campus, and it might make our campus look really big, but it actually only takes about 10-15 minutes to walk from one side to the other. If your student has applied to something like the sciences, engineering, business, or arts, they're going to be more on this side of campus. If you can see my mouse, my laser pointer here. And if they've applied to maybe something like education or health, they're going to be more on this side. And then if your student is thinking about living in residence next year, this is the residence complex. It's the longer buildings in the middle. So they're located right in the middle of campus, and it really only takes 5-10 minutes to get from the middle to either side. So if your student has an 8:30 a.m., they can roll out of bed at 8:15, 8:20 if they want. I would say maybe get up a little earlier than that, but it's a possibility for sure. You can also see that our campus is surrounded by nature. So we have our own private campus beach. The people from Sudbury in the room might have visited that before. We have the Idlewild Golf Course next door. We're surrounded by 5 lakes. You can see 3 of them in this photo here. And then we also have a conservation area in the background. So that has a wealth of trails networks. You can go for a hike in the summer, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing in the winter. What's cool about Laurentian in the winter too is Ramsey Lake back here. The municipality actually plows out a skating path throughout the winter months. So students can go for a skate along the edge of the lake, and I've seen a lot of pictures on social media of them doing that already, which is awesome. The last thing I'll point out, this is our main administrative building, the Parker building, so the tall one here. It's the tallest publicly accessible vantage point in Sudbury. You can't go anywhere higher than that. And if you're coming for a campus tour or you're coming to the spring open house this spring, we will bring you to the top and show you that view. And it really is beautiful, no matter what season you're coming to see it. Another thing that I really want to stress tonight is our postgraduate employment rate. So every year, the ministry surveys all the grads from all the universities in Ontario to see what they're up to, what they're doing, what degree they graduated from. And they are finding that as an average, Laurentian's grads find a job 96% of the time within 6 months of graduation. So after they cross the stage in June, you have July, August, September, October, November, December. Within that calendar year, 96% of them have already found that job. So that is an amazing stat. And I can tell you a little bit more about why we think that it is that high. So if you don't already know, Laurentian is a bilingual campus. We do offer programs in English and in French. If you don't speak French, that's okay. You don't have to choose a French program, but this is an opportunity for you to immerse yourself in French culture, hear the language around you as you go throughout the program, maybe even take a couple French as a second language courses and actually learn some of the language. And if you do speak French already, this is an opportunity for you to continue to further your language and your education in French, which is awesome. So at Laurentian, we have 33 programs that we offer in French. 23% of our students choose to study in French, and we have almost 500 French classes every single year. If you do speak both languages, I'll point you towards the certificate of bilingualism that we have. All you have to do to get this is take 5 courses in the language opposite your main language of study. So let's say you want to study the BA in psychology. You can take 5 courses in French, maybe in the psychology program if they belong to the program, or in a different subject area, maybe sociology, bio, maybe even French as a second language. Those also count, and you will automatically get the certificate when you graduate. Laurentian also has a very engaged Indigenous community on our campus, and I love that we're in this room tonight because often I just have to describe what this room looks like, but you actually get to see this room in person. So it's the round room in the Indigenous Sharing and Learning Center. It's a newer building. I believe it was opened in 2017, and it is beautiful, and we love hosting events out of it. So at Laurentian, we have a lot of Indigenous faculty and staff. We have courses that are enriched with Indigenous content. So regardless of what program your student is choosing, they will learn some of this as they go. About 6% of Greater Sudbury's population is First Nations, and we have, like Peter said, many, many different events and activities every single year that students can take part in. So you can see with this bilingual and tricultural mandate, Laurentian students are getting a very well-rounded education, and then they're bringing that out into the world, into the workforce, and they are being very successful. So that's it for me for now. I'm going to invite Jason Scott Benoit, who's going to talk a little bit about admissions.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for being here this evening. As Catherine said, my name is Jason Scott, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Office of Admissions. So we do have on a couple of slides here, kind of like the sample of the conditional letter. So at this point, I would say about 60 to about 70% of the offers have already gone out. Especially for open enrollment programs, most students who have applied to those, like a general Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, have received their offer. There are still programs, limited enrollment programs, that we've yet to send our offers. And that's essentially because at this point, most high school students are completing their first term, and we haven't gotten those grades yet from UAC or from their high school institution. But the sample letter, or the letter that you would have received or will receive, is pretty important, and it has a lot of information. It actually has 2 pages. Many students don't get to the second page because we've noticed that many students don't read all of the information. So essentially why we put the admissions office one of the first pieces in this presentation to highlight some information that you'll want to see and actually collect as you're going through your offer letter. So for students who've applied to more than one program, you will receive one offer letter, and you could have an offer for all 3 programs or more on the same offer letter. A very important piece of information to hold and to collect, maybe memorize even now, would be the student number. So in the top right corner of that sample letter, or the letter that you'd received, you'll have that 7-digit student number, which will belong to the students for the entire duration of their career here at Laurentian, even after Laurentian, for those who move on to become employees like myself. My employee number is my 7-digit student number that I had back in 2008. So, a bit of a gap there now with current students. So we see a couple thousand numbers discrepancy there. But essentially, like you see here, you have the congratulations message, the offer that you've received for any program you've applied to, and then some important information that you'll also see on page 2. So page 2, you'll notice any kind of conditions that you have. So we heard students earlier mention that they're interested in business. So first come to mind for students who maybe don't have the 2 maths that are required for business, you'll have that as a condition on your offer letter. And also with all high school students right now, there will be the condition that you actually maintain the academic average and also complete your high school diploma. So there are a couple things, and these questions might come up organically once I pass over this slide. But just know that even, despite the fact you've received an offer already or will be receiving an offer soon, students still need to finish that grade 12 year and kind of maintain the success that they've been having. Because from us at the Office of Admissions, we can actually rescind an offer if a student either hasn't graduated with their high school diploma or hasn't maintained the minimum average required to enter into that program. A very good example would be some of our limited enrollment programs. Right off the top of my head, nursing comes to mind as a competitive program and one where we have kind of a cutoff average. So for some of those limited enrollment programs that in the recruitment book, you'll see kind of a minimum of 75%. Typically with the competitive nature of that program and some in our engineering, that cutoff average happens to be a little bit higher. So if that's the case and you were fortunate enough to receive an earlier offer, it'll say as a condition that you must maintain that minimum average. So though you might not have that 85% at the end of that grade 12 year, so long as you can maintain that 75% average and complete all those required courses in high school, that's the final average that we'll be looking at. And we'll count that final average at the end of your grade 12 year once you've completed all those final exams. So again, despite the fact that you have to accept any and all university offer by June 1st, we will, and typically these final transcripts trickle through at the end of June, early mid-July, but we will take your final average using your best 6 grade 12 URM courses. So again, Laurentian's kind of a little bit different in the sense that we'll take your best 6 grade 12 courses, URM. So example, again, coming from nursing, actually for any program, let's say grade 12 English, as it's a requirement for any program at Laurentian in an English stream. If English wasn't your strongest suit, and maybe you got a 60%, but you have more than 6 grade 12 URM courses to choose from, we'll take your best 6 and count your final average for admissions, as well as for awards with that final average. So it's important to push through and kind of maintain either the success that you're having or do better, because especially, and Megan will speak to that in a moment with financial aid and awards. When we're calculating your final average for awards, the higher your average, the more award money that you'll receive. So when I was in recruitment, I spent 5 years in recruitment, and I'd always tell students, especially this time of year, like it's nice to kick your feet up and know you got in, but I'd say most of the work is still yet to come and finishing strong. So keep that in mind. Maybe we'll stop and before I go into the FIPA thing, maybe field some questions about the admissions piece. Any kind of questions that you might have on some of those letters that you have received to date, or maybe any questions that you may have concerning some of the conditions on some of the offers you might have received. Yes.
In regards to their admission requirements.
Yeah.
You're saying grade 12, the 6 highest grade 12 in courses.
Yeah, URM.
URM?
That's right.
Okay. I was under the impression that it was the 11 or 12.
So right now we could be taking grade 11 marks for an early admissions offer, mainly because we don't really have any final marks even for the first term in grade 12. Yeah, so if you have a high achieving student who's doing really well, generally the kind of auto admit that we'll have for an open enrollment program will be 10% higher than what the minimum average is from grade 11. But again, that'll be a condition on the offer letter that you still have to maintain those grades in grade 12, complete the minimum requirements, and then again, finish with that average at the end of June or July. Yeah, great question. That's awesome. Yes, Nick, or whoever's online. Sorry.
Yeah, a question from Jennifer. So did I hear that it's the best 6 courses, regardless of if it's English or any other required courses?
That's correct. Yeah, you have to have completed the requirements of your program. So again, English is the best example in this scenario because it's required for any English speaking program. So as long as you've completed the required courses of your program, we're taking your best 6. So again, students don't like to hear this, but if you can avoid a spare in second term, I know spares are cool in grade 12. You've been looking forward to that for probably 3-4 years. But if you could place like any grade 12 URM course, maybe one that's a little bit easier for you. And if calculus is your easy course, take calculus, because anything to help boost your grade will ultimately help you, meet the conditions of your offer, and ultimately get more scholarship and award money. Is that good, Jennifer? Okay, I'll take that. Yeah,
So if you take that French program, you need to take 5 courses in English to have the bilingual diploma.
that's once you're a student.
So
Yeah,
for the French program.
yeah, exactly.
So you need.
Goes both ways.
5 courses in English.
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
have that bilingual.
Yeah, from your program or from a different program. Yeah, so if comes to psychology, 5 courses in English and anything else. Yeah. And you get the certificate after graduation. You don't have to apply for that. It's automatic. You get it when you get your university degree. You'll get another diploma saying certificate of bilingualism. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you can switch programs really anytime, either before you start or even in your first term, first year, second year. We kind of, if you're going from an engineering to an engineering, it's usually pretty easy because those courses will carry over. But for example, if you're going from like engineering to psychology, we'd ask or we would advise students to switch within their first 2 years of university so that we can ensure those courses will carry on at the very least as electives to a different program. But in the application stage right now, before the end of grade 12, you can communicate with us directly at the admissions office and we can make that change internally. If the student hasn't already accepted an offer, they can go on their UAC portal and make that change themselves. Yeah. Yeah, very, very the same. Yeah, it's easier if they switch without having accepted the offer. If they've already accepted the offer, I would just say communicate with the Office of Admissions, because then we'll be able to change that internally. I'm not sure whether or not UAC will allow you to change a program once you've accepted an offer. You might have to like add another choice. So, in order to kind of not do that, we would just turn it internally, switch it internally, sorry. Yeah.
Can you repeat just for everyone who's talking tonight, just to repeat any of the questions?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. So the question was if a student wants to change programs during the application process. So the easiest way to do that is like prior to accepting the offer, making the change through UAC, you can just delete a choice. I would delete a choice and add a choice, because if you add a choice amongst or on top of the top 3 that you've made, you're probably paying an extra fee. If you've already accepted the offer and you want to change, then contact the Office of Admissions and we'll just make that switch internally. And if you require another letter, we'll just kick out another offer letter to show, the new program that you've accepted or been changed to. Yeah. That's a good question. Putting you in the hot seat here tonight. Anything else? We're good? Okay, perfect. All right, folks, I was deemed with the task to talk about FIPA. Personally, I actually really enjoy talking about FIPA with parents. So it's a pleasure for me, but I think this is a great opportunity to let parents know that at this stage, your student is now an adult. And though there could be, some students who are still 17, where they're not officially an adult yet, but just understand that in this process of going to university, they have their own rights, they have their own freedoms, and it's not up to us as an institution to disclose the information they're sharing with us as technically a third party. So we'd ask that you respect the Privacy Act in that sense. We understand that a lot of parents, obviously you're here today, so you're involved in the process, and we appreciate that. I would have liked my parents to be a little bit more involved myself, but here I am. But in that being said, we get lots of calls, we get lots of emails from parents, we get calls from parents where their child is sitting beside them, or we get calls from parents where their student is at work and can't get the time off. Like if your child works at a grocery store and they can't get half an hour to call university, maybe talk to their boss. This is like an important part of their life where they should be granted that time to make the important call to get the information they need about their post-secondary journey. And we love to have you involved in that, which is why we've created a third-party access. So if you're calling on behalf of your students and you're requesting information in terms of their fees, their application status, their new address, like anything like that, we're gonna ask that you've actually been kind of approved as a third-party access. And for those of you at home, if you want to take a screenshot of this, or for those of you in the room who want to take note of this, there is a way in the student portal where under the profile tab, you can sign up as third-party access. And the student can actually give their parents kind of the right to ask certain questions. So just because there is that third-party access, it doesn't mean that you get green light to receive answers about anything you want to ask. In that process there, the student can give their parent permission or guardian permission to ask questions only about fees and financial aid, or only about the admissions process, or don't give any information about my address. Because believe it or not, there are some situations where students take this opportunity to kind of break free from their parents, and they don't want their parents to know where they are. So we also have to respect that. In the process, you will be asked to create a question as well as a password. So when we go through that third-party access in the student's portal, we'll see that whoever has access can have access, but we will ask you to repeat the password in order, obviously, to ensure that you have that third-party access. So, and also for the students in the room online, don't feel forced to give your parents access if you don't want them to have access. It could be intimidating. You're sitting right beside you right now, like, do this right now. If you don't want them to have access, that's very much okay. You can let us know that you don't want certain people to have access. And we've had that happen in the past where, if so-and-so person calls, if so-and-so person emails, or if you get a message from this email address, do not disclose my information. It's happened before and it will happen again. So just respect everybody's wishes in this sense. And also don't get mad at us or my colleagues if we can't disclose this information, because we respect the Privacy Act enough to hold your students' personal private information and respect that. So I'll take questions about FIPPA if you want. I don't know the entire script of FIPPA, but we do abide by it, and there's links to the website if you want more. And maybe for those who didn't have a question or the opportunity to ask a question about admissions, second chance for that as well. Yeah.
I have two questions coming in online. Lorraine's asking, my daughter is looking to transfer from another university. How can she find out what courses she's completed and will be accepted to Laurentian?
Yeah, that's a great. I was gonna talk about the transfer thing, but I didn't think this was the appropriate audience for that. So for any student transferring from a different university, a different college, we will ask that you submit your either an unofficial transcript for the time being. Finally, we will require an official transcript, but in that admissions process, usually, unless you've made an application to two very different programs, we will provide you with a transfer credit report. I'm usually responsible for those, so we'll look at that unofficial official transcript from wherever university. What university was it? We don't know. Okay. And then we'll with the offer, we'll share the transfer credit report, and those two documents usually come hand in hand, and they're presented in the student's My Laurentian student portal account. So that information is usually declared, and if for whatever reason those two programs the student has applied to are very different in nature, we'll simply have a comment in the conditions of the offer letter saying the transfer credit report will be released upon final program choice. So that way there we'll kind of process those transfer credits accordingly so that they match the degree progress that the student is embarking on, so that it kind of makes more sense. But we'll do as best as we can to match course for course, so long as the students completed that course at a university with an average above 50%.
Yeah, another question from online. Is there any incentive or reason for the
No.
student for accepting offers earlier than before the deadline? Other than I know the university would like to know about the further planning purposes.
There's no like bonus Jonas, but I would say it gives you peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind to know where you're going. It gives you peace of mind to know how to prepare accordingly. Like if you know you're coming to Laurentian, then you come for a campus tour. You register for your courses early. You get to meet your faculty. You get to meet the staff that are behind the scenes. So it would be like the biggest thing. Like there's no additional scholarship or awards for that. But the scholarship and award portal, like Megan will speak to, is opening up shortly, so you can apply for those. But yeah, there's no like, I don't know, maybe Peter, is there a raffle that we're doing? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah.
Another question coming from online. When you accept your offer, will a deposit be required at that time? And when is the first payment due? I think Megan didn't address the first payment, but is there a deposit?
Yeah, there's no deposit. There has been a deposit in the past of $500 to keep your seat, but we're not doing that anymore. And if there is a deposit for any limited enrollment program, it'll be in the offer letter. There's not, eh?
Last question from online from Jennifer. Does the third-party access include health wellness information if they are connected with their health services?
Yes. Yeah, there will be a section there where you can disclose that. So the question, yeah, I guess you read it off, but the question was for those in the room, third-party access for health and wellness, and there would be that category there to disclose that information or not to disclose that information as well.
Another question, does a co-op in education in a hospital boost your application for Laurentian University, or does it affect your grades in any way?
For what program?
No idea if there's a specific program, but a co-op in education in a hospital.
Okay, well, we don't take supplementary docs for any programs or limited enrollment programs. I would say if you're doing a practicum in a hospital right now and you're going into nursing, it'd probably be just like good experience to have firsthand, having done that before you actually set foot as a university student. But in terms of like, you know what, there might be awards you can apply for based on that, and even like community awards based on volunteerism. So that would probably be the best advantage. But in terms of admission stuff, there'd be no advantage.
When are offers due by?
So offers for us, we're rolling them out as soon as they come in. Like I said earlier, we're probably about, I would say 60 to 70% of all of our offers have gone through, and that would be a higher percentage for open enrollment programs. But the biggest deadline, I think, for everybody in the audience would be the June 1st deadline to accept your offer. Because after that, especially for limited enrollment programs, we can actually rescind the offer. So after June 1st, you know, if you're waiting on an offer for nursing and you didn't accept and it's June 2nd, well, our nursing program will be full. So we would rescind that offer. And that's like really bad. Like, I don't even want to deal with that news. I'm like, I'm sick on June 2nd. I'm not coming in because that's tough news to share. So June 1st would be the biggest deadline where I say you have to accept your offer if you're committed to Laurentian or really any other post-secondary institution.
And one last question. Does the university send communication after the final grades have been submitted?
I don't know. We don't, but we would receive that and you would get your offer rather quickly. So I guess the one piece of information that you receive from us would be the offer. That's how you know their grades came in. You can always email us too if you haven't heard. So admissions with an S, admissions@laurentian.ca. If you want a status update on your application, if you think that your grades have been received and you're still waiting, you can let us know. We'll confirm whether or not we've received any official or unofficial document. And if we're still waiting for something, typically with UAC, they kind of generate those transcript requests on their own, especially for the institutions within the province, whether it be a college, university, or high school. But they also have their due process. So they might do that in bulk every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. I would imagine now as high schools are going through and finishing up first term, that's probably every couple of days, if not every day. But if you find yourself waiting a little bit longer than you should, just reach out to us and we'll give you a status update. Perfect.
Can I add one thing there?
Yeah.
So. One thing to note, if for whatever reason. Thanks, Nick. If for whatever reason you have a friend or you have someone who is applying to university and they only discover a specific program at the university in July or August, it is not the end of the world. Admissions will work with the student and the family to have them come in for the fall. Okay, so there is a deadline. We participate in the application process with 23 or 24 other institutions in the process. However, we are in a unique position to be able to work with the students to come into the programs as we are not a large institution. It's one of the advantages that we do have with your students, okay? Another thing to remember, if your student is taking a course through night school, summer school, an independent learning center course, those all count towards admissions. We will use those to help them get access to the education they want. If there are questions, exactly like Jason said, if there are questions unique to your student, reach out to admissions because they will get you the exact information you need specific to your circumstance. Okay.
Yeah, and I will add to that too, Peter. That's a good point. For those students who received a condition on their offer, let's say you're going into business, you had 1 math and the condition on your offer is that you complete a math course in your first year. You can do that math course during the summer at a summer school. ILC, I believe, is like is like the website or the online platform that we encourage students to pursue. Mainly because those courses are $40 a pop and they count as a grade 12 course. So that would be the more affordable route to complete that that condition on your offer, but it is possible, and we will be happy to refresh the condition or review your offer in July or August once you've completed that adult or that ILC course. So for anyone who, like, we get that question lots, like students who don't have that second math for business and they don't even apply. It's like, it's worth applying even to get the condition and just satisfying the condition either in your first term or before you even start in September. So that would be 1.2, kind of to piggyback off what Peter said. If you do any kind of night schools or extracurriculars or, you know, ISLC, like those transcripts will have to come separate from your high school, but we'll take them and we'll count them equally so long as they're grade 12 URM. Cool. All right, squad. Merci. I'll pass it on to Money Matters. Just kidding. Megan, Filion.
Hi, everybody. Just gonna bring this in a little bit. There. Okay, so my name is Megan and I am the financial aid coordinator here at Laurentian University. I work with the student fees and financial aid office, and I am here to talk to you guys about the fun stuff, the money. So we're gonna cover a little bit about tuition fees, a little bit about OSAP, and then the awards aspect. So what's important to know here at Laurentian is with our tuition fees, you are charged per course that you take here at Laurentian. So you're not charged per semester or per block, you're charged per course you take. So if you're taking 4 courses one semester, you're taking 5 courses next semester, you're only paying 4 courses one semester, 5 that next semester. Oftentimes during an academic year, we do find students who want to get ahead and they want to take extra courses during the summer. So they'll take an extra course during the summer so they don't have to take an extra course the next year. That also alleviates the cost for that next year because it is a little cheaper because they did absorb that cost during the spring summer term. So different programs have different fees associated with them. So our programs range from about $6,000 to about $10,000, $11,000, depending on the program itself. Another important thing that's incorporated with our tuition fees is our incidental fees. So these incidental fees are mandatory fees that are associated with the tuition that gives your student access to different resources that are available on campus. So for example, one of our most popular ones would be the gym. So with their student card, they have access to the gym. So they get to go to the gym during their breaks and things like that and access the facility. They also have access to a bus pass. So for those in Sudbury, you have access to the Sudbury transit system. You don't have to be on campus to jump on the bus to then go anywhere. You can access the bus anywhere. Zilda, Chelmsford, get on the bus. You have your student card, swipe it, you get downtown. It includes your transfer. Your bus is completely included with your tuition fee as a full-time student. And then another thing is also just different organizations on campus for students to get familiar with, different clubs, different activities, different things like that within the student association itself. So it's just another opportunity to get engaged and for you to familiarize yourself with different activities going on campus. And then we have residents. So our residences, I'm sure we'll be touching base on it a little later, but we have different costs associated to residents. So what's important to know is that when you're committed to staying on residence, it's not like it's a landlord where your cost might change per month to month. No, what you're paying at the beginning of the school year, that's your cost for your residence for your entire academic year here at Laurentian. So most students have the opportunity to either pay by semester. So they'll split the cost in half. They'll pay half in the fall and they'll pay half in the winter, or they can pay the full cost upfront. The tuition fees work the same way. So essentially they would pay the fall semester in the fall, and then you pay your winter semester in the winter term right before your winter semester starts. So you might be looking at this and just be a little overwhelmed with the cost and the amounts, but I do want to bring up a topic, OSAP. So for those that aren't familiar with OSAP or get a little scared with OSAP, the program itself has come a long, long way. So OSAP is here for students in Ontario who want to have access to funding opportunities within the government. So you have access to loans and grants. So loans is money that you have to pay back after your studies once you're done, 6 months after you're done. Your grants is free money. So it's money that you get to take and that you get to keep. So oftentimes we have parents who have RESPs for students who have been saving all these years for their children to go to school, which is great. With OSAP, you also have the opportunity to say no to the loans and just take those grants and just take that free money and say no to the loans. So we have had lots of students who have taken that free money, invested it in high interest savings account, and just keep building that money off just because they already had resources available to them to pay for their school. So I know oftentimes people hear OSAP and they get often scared because of debt, but I promise you the system, it has come a very, very long way. And if you go on the OSAP website yourself, we can drop down the link for the OSAP calculator. They have a calculator available where you get to go in, put in your information, your income, and it'll give you an estimate as to how much you could potentially receive from OSAP based on your income, your program, where you're going to study and everything like that. And then from there, that'll help you budget, because then you can see, okay, this is how much I could be entitled to, this is how much of grants I can get, and how much of loans. And then after OSAP, here at Laurentian, we have our awards. So over here, we have our automatic based scholarship. So these scholarships here are automatically based on the student's average. So like Jason was saying, right now we are taking, so students are applying. If you have the above 80 average, you have, sorry, excuse me, you have gotten an automatic scholarship letter from us. So the letter would be uploaded on your portal. So this scholarship here is automatic. You do not need to apply for it in order to get it. You come to Laurentian, your first year, you're full-time. The scholarship is applied and it's deducted off of your tuition fees. For example, you're a first year student, you're going into nursing, your tuition fees are $6,000 that year, and you're coming in with an above 80 average and you're granted the $4,000 scholarship for 4 years. So you're given $1,000 your first year, and that's automatically deducted right off of your tuition fee. So in reality, your tuition fees cost is only $5,000 for that academic year. And then if you work even harder, the higher you go, the more money you get. And then that deducts off of your tuition fees as well. And then another automatic scholarship we have is the Francophone Excellence Scholarship. So this one here is based for students who are going to be studying in French and who are coming in from a French high school as well. So this scholarship here is also automatic, so no application required. And then I did notice that somebody had talked about transfer credit. So just for that one transfer student, that we do also have the Academic Pathway Scholarship, which is another automatic scholarship, which is valued at $1,000 for our transfer students. And then our last but not least will be our awards application information. So right now on the applicant portal, it is not posted, but it will be posted in the next few weeks. We will be reaching out to all the applicants, letting them know once the application is live. So the way that this application will work, it's one application, there'll be lots of different questions, and then there'll be lots of different awards that you can read through and see which ones you qualify for best. So there'll be different community involvements, different for programs. There's a bunch of different criteria. You read them, you see which ones you would qualify for best and see which ones you want to apply for. You submit that. And then once your application is submitted, we will be getting back to students in around April, beginning of May with the decision regarding the application. And do you have any questions for me?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yeah.
For OSAP,
Oui.
there is deadlines. I've learned the bad way, but it's not like you when you can always apply after. If you pass the deadline, it's over.
So
And then if you regret after.
yeah, that's why it's always best.
There is no adjustment or.
Yeah, so with OSAP, I always encourage students to start applying for OSAP for September. You should start applying in June, because this will give you the opportunity to see how much you can get, to budget, and your documents. But with OSAP, they allow students to apply for up to 60 days before the end of their school. So it happens, you're in school, you have your budget, you think you're going to make it, you come into a financial situation and you're in a crisis, and you decide to apply for OSAP and it's December. The application is available, students can apply. They have 60 days before the end of school to submit their application. But it is the government and it is the ministry, so they are very, very strict on deadlines and documents and everything like that.
Questions. I'll be taking the questions online now. Are there athletic scholarships?
So it would be best to reach out to the athletic coach, first of all, from the team, and Peter will touch base on that.
Thanks, Nick. So for athletic scholarships, if your student is looking at participating in any varsity athletics program, the coaches will typically receive an amount of money, and it's to their discretion how they administer those funds to their athletes. So some coaches may use those funds to say, well, I want to have this year a new roster of people coming in because my last year's graduating class was significant. So I'm going to use the money to recruit more people. Other coaches may say, if the student has participated with us for the 4 seasons from which they were a student on, that money will increase year over year. So there are awards available. Megan is exactly right. The best course of action, reach out to the coach, luvoyageurs.ca. I'm reasonably sure is the address, but we will drop it in the chat and make sure everyone has it. But if they are interested in being an athlete, absolutely, there are some funds available to them.
The next question is, are the grants from OSAP taxable?
So you do get a T4A from the ministry once you do get your scholarship funds. And then from there, then you're not taxed, it's not taxable or anything like that. It's kind of like when you get a scholarship from Laurentian or from any institution as well. It is taxable, it's a T4A, so you do get that T4A that you do submit when you do your taxes.
Another question, are some of these scholarships available to students outside of Ontario?
Yes, there are some that will be available. You'll just have to keep an eye out on the applicant portal in a few weeks. The list will be sent to all students there, and then you'll be able to read through and see which ones would fit you best.
Do you have to apply to entrance scholarships separately, or is it an automatic process with your application?
So the applicant awards application for the actual scholarships, that's an additional application that you submit, but the one that's based on your average, like the academic excellence one, that one's automatic. That one you do not have to apply for. When you apply to Laurentian, we automatically evaluate you for that. And if you are a successful candidate, we upload the letter onto your applicant portal, letting you know which of the category you fit under for the scholarship.
Kelly from the chat is just asking, is there any additional information about the Ontario Learn and Stay grant for nursing?
Yeah, so we're also just getting familiar with the program itself. The government has just been announcing that. They've been airing some commercials as well on TV. I had seen last week and on the radio. So for right now, for what has been rolled out is that Laurentian has been selected as one of the schools or in their nursing program in French and in English for undergraduate students. So if you do select to choose to come study at Laurentian University, you apply for the Learn and Stay grant, which for now it's being explained to us that it's still going to be incorporated within OSAP. So you'll still be applying for OSAP and making that application. And then if everything else goes through, then you are eligible to get free tuition and free living allowance for your 4 years of studies at Laurentian, as long as you commit to working in the North for up to 2 years after you've graduated your studies. So the information that we have right now, it's all on the government's website. So if you just go to the FAQ page, we can drop down the link for the Ontario Stay and Learn, and all their FAQs have been posted on there, and they've been updating them weekly as more information is coming in. But we're told that by April, we should have all the information available to us for our students.
For early admission, does that at all affect whether or not you get a scholarship, or do you have to wait until the end of the year until the final grades are posted?
So no, so this is actually a very good question. Oftentimes with UAC, the grades are getting updated. So when you've applied, let's say you applied and you had an 80, we gave you the scholarship for the $4,000 award, and then now your average went up to 96%. It's no problem. We actually update the grades in UAC at the end of June and July once all the final grades are in, and we re-update all the scholarships based on that so that we have your true final average and that it reflects the correct amount for the scholarship. So you don't have to email us your transcript or to update us in any way like that. We'll take the grades from UAC. The only time is if you decide to take a summer school to kind of do some upgrading to bring up your grades, then at that time you just have to reach out.
Are there scholarships available for transfer students or only first years?
Well, there's the So depending, like if you're transferring and you graduated from a college, there's the academic pathway one, but other than that, there'll be the applicant one that'll be available in the next few weeks, and you'll just have to read through and see which ones you would qualify for best. But unfortunately, you wouldn't fall into the academic excellence one based on the high school grade, just because you have went to another institution.
Do you need to accept your offer before you get access to any of the awards?
No, you do not. So you don't have to accept your offer at Laurentian. It could be you've applied, we get your application, you still have not said yes or no. We will still evaluate you for the awards. We'll send you that. That can also help you make your decision. So we'll be having those letters out by May to help with those decisions for June.
Let me see.
So I think she had a question at the back.
I did in regards to the scholarship. I know some universities offer like a one-stop portal for bursary and scholarship application.
Yeah.
You fill in one application, send it off, and then everything that you could qualify for, you basically automatically apply for those bursaries and those. Does Laurentian work the same way?
Yeah, so it's one application, but they just have to read through the awards to see which ones they would qualify for. So if they've done over 100 hours in volunteer, let's say, there could be one award specifically for over 100 hours in volunteer. So just different like that for those personal ones, they have to read through to see which ones they fit
But
better.
it's not a separate application.
No, it's all just one application. So they'll be putting like only their first name once. They'll only be putting their information once. Like that's just once, and then they'll just click from there to see which ones they qualify for.
Can students that get the that are Francophone apply for the Academic Excellence Award as well as the academic?
Yeah,
Or
so
the
they're
Frank-
both automatic. So if you are, like, if you get the Francophone excellence, you're automatically gonna get the academic excellence one as well, because your average is above 80%, so you get both. So you get 1,250 your first year on top of either 1,000 or wherever you fall into that category. Anybody else? No?
So we will now invite Eric to come chat about how the programs support the students, the program staff.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Eric Gauthier. I'm a professor of biochemistry here at Laurentian. I've been working here for 28 years. I'm also the director of the School of Natural Sciences. The School of Natural Sciences houses programs like chemistry, biology, forensics, zoology, neuroscience. And my favorite band is Iron Maiden. There you go. So there's a few things that I would like to highlight, and what Catherine mentioned earlier, her experience was when she started here. The individual attention that she got was a major, very much welcome thing when she moved to Laurentian. And she was, yeah. All right. And that's 100% true. I tell every student that comes to see me, you know, you start at Laurentian and within a few weeks we'll know you by your first name, right? And yet there's a lot of advantages for that. The main advantage is that you'll be able to easily have access to your professors. Tell my students I have an open door policy. They can come and see me every time. I have, you know, I'm teaching classes, I'm meeting my students, but also students from other programs, sometimes outside my own jurisdiction, if you will come and see me for advice. So that's one thing that students have to keep in mind. The faculty members are there to help them in their journey through at Laurentian, right? Could be, for example, to have advice on which courses to take next term. It might be for advice on whether they, you know, they should maybe change program because they change their mind over the type of career they want to pursue. So every school on campus, a school is basically a department that houses a certain number of programs. So every school has a few faculty members that are program coordinators. faculty members that will be advisors that will meet with students to provide them counsel regarding their studies and also regarding which courses to take, which opportunities can be open to them. Faculty members also are a very good resource for students in order to access some very unique opportunities. In the sciences, for example, many of our students help us deliver our undergraduate labs, and they get paid for that. So from second year on, a student can get a part-time job helping us offer the first year, second year labs. And for that, they can come and see me or my colleagues and we'll push them in the right direction. Same thing for students who need to transfer from a different program. Someone mentioned earlier transferring from one mining engineering into mechanical, for example. It could be from transferring from psychology into biochemistry. Well, then they would have to come and see me and I would go over what would be required of them. Even if they're starting their third year, we can sit down and draft a schedule so that they can finish as soon as possible. Okay. Faculty members are available also to counsel students regarding internships or co-ops. Many programs offer experiential learning activities. It could be an internship where a student gets credits but does not get paid, or a co-op where a student gets a full-time salary working for a company or even on campus. Students can come and see us. Also, we offer field trips and we have student clubs within each unit that can allow students to, well, facilitate contact with their peers and also participate in very nice, cool activities. And we also can meet students to provide career advising and also employment opportunities. We do get, we are in contact with employers, so we can, put the employer and the student in contact. Now, if there are any questions regarding how faculty can help students, but can take any.
This question here from Jennifer is, are internships not paid or is it dependent on the employer?
But it depends on the program and the type of activity that's that the program offers. In several programs, internships will not be paid because you will receive credits, academic credits for the internship. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so next we will invite Pierre to come up and chat a little bit about accessibility and counseling, so your student success.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir, Annie. I'm a 2009 grad of the Bachelor's in Social Work program here at Laurentian. Then I started my master's in social work, and 15 years later, I'm back, but as an employee, as staff, as a counselor here in counseling and accessibility services. When I was studying here, mostly in my bachelor's, there was a time where, I needed to confide in someone. Maybe talking to my mother wasn't the right person. My friends didn't really understand everything. So that's when counseling really came in handy. It was very helpful for me to have just that person to hear me out and to brainstorm on different solutions to problems. And definitely counseling is free for all students. Our services are confidential. So just to bring back our conversations from earlier, sometimes, we have parents calling and asking, how's my daughter doing? But just be aware that we respect confidentiality, so we can't give out information about, your child. But again, if you do the My Laurentian, there's a third party, sometimes that helps to navigate or to exchange a bit of information. So counselors listen and work with you to address personal issues and mental health concerns that may be interfering with your success as a student. So how you can schedule an appointment. You may do so either by sending an email to counseling@laurentian.ca. You can also come in person, just in the tall building, Parker Building, second floor, 230. And you just speak with the intake coordinator. You schedule an appointment with a counselor and accessibility advisor. We're open from 9 to 4:30. Right now, we're kind of open from 9 to 7. I try to extend the hours a bit to accommodate students that are in class in day. So I do offer sessions till 7. And we're definitely more than one counselor. It's not just me. But I'm the only one offering night shifts. So yeah, our phone number 705-675-1151, extension 6506. And we also offer walk-in counseling, so same day appointments. Right now, the walk-in counseling hours are from 1 to 3. Again, you just present yourself either in the office, give us a phone call or an email, and you're guaranteed a session the same day within between 1 and 3. Possibility of those hours changing to full day, but we're not there yet. So a few concerns that I came across here as a counselor, there's definitely anxiety, concerns with depression. And I've noticed recently after COVID, there's, students that are dealing with isolation and I'm trying to reintegrate in community. So they come and seek help on tricks, tips on really how to face their fear and create some exposure therapy to deal with their anxieties right now. So definitely COVID accentuated a lot of problems. So that's for counseling as well. We do have an application called Keep Me Safe or My SSP. And all students at Laurentian have access to counseling on there too, either by chatting on the phone. Services are free on there too, 24/7, 7 days 24/7, 365 days a year. So at midnight, you're struggling, you open the app and you can directly chat with a counselor on there as well. So even though our offices or our hours close at 7, it's, they have access to more support over there. Accessibility services. If your child needs accommodations at school, that we have accessibility advisors that can sit down with you, look over your medical documents or any documents that was prepared by a professional stating, your needs. So together with the advisor, you can establish a plan to better accommodate the needs. To schedule an appointment, again, with an accessibility advisor, it's the same. You just present yourself, same office, P230 on second floor of Parker. And you just request an appointment with an advisor. We do ask that you bring documentation, like I said, from a professional medical expert that states a bit what your needs or your requirements are. The email for accessibility is accessibilityserviceinfo@laurentian.ca, and the extension is 3324. I'm old school. I have to bring paper. A few services offered through accessibility. There's learning strategies, time management and study skills, note-taking strategies, assistive technology and training, testing center for students who require testing accommodations. So in our center, we have a lot of rooms, private rooms for exams. We have communal exam rooms as well. So if a student needs accommodations when doing their exams, they just come up there and they can have a solo room as well if it's better for focus and concentration. We also have three new programs, the peer programs. We have the peer wellness program, so it's all peer-led by students. So they don't offer necessarily counseling, but they do offer like supportive counseling. If a student needs to talk to someone, but they don't really want to make it formal with a counselor. There's peer academic programs as well. So we have peers, trying to teach time management skills or assignment planning, all that stuff. And we do also have a peer coach program that is almost like a little navigator for Laurentian for any kind of questions, like where's the registrar? Where can I go pay my fees? So the peer coach can do that as well. So on the screen, there's a lot more resources and supports available on campus. All these services are free. So they're all really, really good services and group available, and they're all covered into the tuition free fees. So yeah, that's my my little spiel. Do we have any questions?
I do have some questions from the online people. The first one is, what are the counselor's credentials? Are they senior students?
Counselors at the counseling office are not students at the moment. But yes, we have bachelors in social work. We do have masters in social work as well. Yeah, I think we're all social workers. Right
And
now.
they would all be registered with the college. correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're definitely registered with the college, which makes me think as well. To receive counseling, the student has to be in Ontario to access counseling through Laurentian, just because of the college regulations. But let's say they're not in Ontario. Sometimes it happens, we have Quebecers. We encourage them to use Keep Me Safe app at the very least. Yeah.
So is it somebody in Ontario, like a Quebec resident that's now here in Laurentian in Ontario?
Then they can. It's where they are, either if they call or it's a video chat, they have to be in Ontario.
But when they're here at Laurentian.
Yep. Okay. Yes, or even during reading week. That's when I see it a lot. But yeah, there's Keep Me Safe. It's another great program. Also, our appointments are offered virtually or in person. So we do phone appointments, video chat that's through our EMH where it's all protected and encrypted. So and we do in person as well. So we try to accommodate the best we can for students.
The note-taking course and budget, I'm not sure you listed a few, but it's under accessibility.
So let's say budgeting, writing skills and all that, I would go probably through the peer programs. So academic programs, but if you do go through accessibility, they do have tips there too.
And we see this on the
Pardon me?
website. We see all this on the website.
Yeah, all the information is on the website, maybe not as much as I said today, but at least the contact information is there. Few tips on how to get ready for your first appointment and what documentation to bring as well.
Another question from online, what are the wait times like for counseling?
It varies. Definitely during reading week, it's not very long. But we try to keep it around 2 to 3 weeks. When we're at max capacity with counselors, it's definitely very short wait time. I was very impressed when I came back to Laurentian and saw the wait list. Compared to community services, the wait list is very, very much shorter. If you go into community, it could be 6 to 10 months wait. So I really enjoy providing this quick service to students because, you know, when the concerns arises, it's good to deal with it in a short time frame.
Another question from our online. If a student has an IEP in school, and does not have the medical requirements, would you also transfer the IEP as a foundation?
So you can definitely bring your IEP documents to, you know, kind of guide the accessibility advisor on, you know, techniques that they could try, but the IEP is not a medical document. It is not necessarily a professional signed document. But we always encourage to bring the documents that specify your specific needs written by a professional, but for sure bring the IEP as well.
The last question, are the executive functioning courses offered through the accessibility team? Which I think we addressed already, was that they're offered by the peer academic peer program?
You can either go through peers and accessibility advisors might have more specific tools if you do require accommodations.
All the questions I have.
Right. Enjoy your night.
Thank you so much, Pierre. And our final panelist of the evening is Sean, who's going to chat about residence, and he is a staff person in residence, but also still a current student. So we'll pass the mic to you.
Ready? All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm a 4th-year sports administration student. I've worked as an RA on campus in single student residence, one of our Frosh buildings. I'm currently a senior resident assistant in our Frosh building, single student residence. So jumping right into it. So 1st year residents, as you can see here, we have single student residents and university college residents. We'll get into their floor plan in just a minute. So I've lived in single student residence 3 of my 4 years at Laurentian. My 2nd year, I stayed home just for financial reasons, and also being online just made it a bit easier. So with 1st year residents, current high school students are guaranteed a spot in residence when they apply to university college or single student residence before June 2nd, 2023, as you can see on the board here. And the great thing I love about residence is how much programming there is. There's always activities going on. Sundays, we have Sunday sports, just morning sport, different programming that we have every week. And then Fridays, we have TGIFs, just a different event every week, just for kids to participate in, and you don't have to be in residence to partake in it. And then there's also wellness activities. So we do Zumba, yoga, and that's just to name a few. And then upper year residents. So we have West residents, mature student residents, and East residents. So those 3 residents, the great thing I love about Laurentian is that most students do stay on residence for all 4 years, just because it is close to everything, as you guys have seen in the pictures earlier. So I have been experiencing all residents, just being with friends, different events that have taken place. And then there's also Huntington residents that we do have a partnership with as well. So just another residence that we can go through. So going on to the next slide, we'll just look at the floor plan. So the dorm style, that's our university college residence. So there's a kitchen, a lounge, and then there's single and double bedrooms just for the students to have their choice. And then for matchmaking process, it's usually based on their program. So they're either matched up with roommate or the residence assistant if they're in like the same program or same department, or they're matched up with, or they can choose single bedroom. And we do have lots of space, so we do encourage you to apply to residence. And then the apartment styles are single student residence, as well as our upper year residence. So the single student residence has a single bedroom, double rooms, and it has a kitchen and a living dining room area all in one, and then 2 bathrooms. So it is very accessible. And it just is up to you on what preference you have. So moving on to the next slide. So residence assistants are on every floor. We are currently in the hiring stage of our residence assistants for next year. It's been a lengthy process, but we do have a lot of great applicants that I've seen. So we do have a lot of promise for next year, and we are hopeful to see you there. 24/7 security and porter service. So we do have the porter desk open at all times. There's at the porter desk is where you'll have mail packages, so care packages from parents. I know my first year, my mom would send me different stuff I need, whether it be medicine, books, just different stuff. It's always great to have our porter service. It's also someone to talk to throughout the day. I'm working there tonight, so I always have residents just show up. And then close access to laundry. So there's a laundry room in every building. Campus store. So there's a convenience store that has a Mexican restaurant, Casada, inside, just as an option for food services. And we also have Tim's, Subway all across campus, just for different places to go. And then there's health services. So even if you're not a resident on campus, you can go to health services. There's a nurse practitioner. Lynn is great. Worked with her a lot, and she is there to help you alongside any other of the health services staff. And then planned and dedicated residence activities, as I said before, Sunday sports, TGIFs, and then whether it be wellness services or wellness activities throughout the week, Zumba, yoga. And then central location. So as Catherine showed earlier, it is close to everything. So it's a 5-minute walk over to the gym, or a 2-second walk up the hill up to Parker Building here, and everything's just in close proximity to each other. So classrooms, labs, library, dining halls just in Parker Building here. That if you do come for the open house, they do show it off. There is food there for you to show up. So I do encourage you to come out to our open house. Library, dining hall, student center, which is just newly built, and that's actually connected to the residents, which is great. Rec facilities. So there is a rec or a gym inside single student residence, which has been great to use throughout COVID. Trails across campus, as we've seen in the pictures, and it's about anything you can ask for. So moving on to the next slide, food. So residence meal plan options. So if you're living on residence, you are required to have a meal plan unless you're living in mature student residence. So there's 4 different options. So you have the light eater. So on the light eater, you have 250 meals, $3,976 is how much that is. Commuter is 320 meals, $4,600, give or take. Party eater, 375 meals, and freedom eater is unlimited. So go as much as you can. And each of those comes with a set number of flex dollars. The most flex dollars coming with the light eater, and then going down as you go up the meal plan. And then if you're not living on residence, as I assume most of you aren't because you guys are from Sudbury, you can always opt into the non-residence meal plan options. So there's block meal plans. So 35 meals for $545. So if you want to go to the Great Hall whenever you like after a class, that is a great option to go with your friends. 75 meals for $1,100, and then 150 meals for $2,000. So they're always great. And as Catherine told me yesterday, and residents always talks about, you can always go up, you can't go down. So after the October 1st deadline, you are locked into your meal plan if you're at the Freedom, but you can, or if you're at the Light Eater, you're locked in, but you can always go up. So moving on to the next slide, questions. Anybody have any?
Are all the residences co-ed, or is it separate floors, men, women, especially in the dormitory style?
So in the dorm style, it is men, women. Bathrooms are designated by floor. It is up to the floor to the side. So usually it is a male bathroom and then a female on the floor below. And they are brother sister residents. So it's more of a family style in the University College residence.
Next question, is there a price difference between the dorm style and the apartment style?
Prices are not set right now. They are, former prices can be found online. There is like a slight difference, but not a significant difference.
We answered that one already. Do resident assistants get paid?
Yes, I get paid.
When is the earliest you can apply for a room?
So you can apply for a room starting now, up until June 2nd. After that, they can accommodate moving in. Like if you do last minute decide that you need a place on res, can't find a place off campus, you can contact residents and they will be willing to help you.
I believe that's all the questions that I have for you, Sean.
Perfect.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Just for everyone, if you get to the point where you discover that at the end of September, that drive in from Garson every morning is a little bit too much, let's say, or you're coming from Chelmsford and you're spending all kinds of money on gas, or even you're just here in Sudbury and it's something that you want to have that experience. If you get to that point in the year and you're curious about living on campus, send the email. Ask if they have rooms available, because more often than not, there is at least 1 or 2 rooms available for those students to take advantage of. One of the great examples we usually use is the idea of you're a basketball player, right? The idea of being at the gym early, the idea of staying there late. So if you have practice, if you have games, exactly like Sean said, it is a 5-minute walk from the gym to your residence building, as opposed to a 5-second walk to your car, followed by a half an hour drive in -30 weather, right? So the idea of the advantage that's there for you with residents and everything being central is very significant. And I would be remiss to say, this is not just the first year experience. There are buildings that will accommodate students in upper years. So for the example, I've had friends when I was a student who had lab experiments in their 4th year, or they were working on a thesis, and being on campus was better for them. They had closer proximity and closer access to their labs. So in their 4th year or in their 3rd year, that's when they actually chose, despite being in Sudbury, to move into residence. So it doesn't have to be a first year thing. It can be a 1st year, 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year thing. It can be and whenever you need that service. Just make sure you leverage the people who are in residence to find out what's available.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter, and thank you so much, Sean. So we have heard from all our panelists. We are on the last stretch of the session now, so hang tight, we're almost there. We're just going to go over some important dates to keep in mind as we go throughout the rest of the season. So September to December, this is already passed. You did your research, you submitted your applications, and maybe you did come visit the campus for a tour or an open house. So pat yourself on the back. That is a stressful part of the process, and it is over now. Good work. From now until March, grade 12 students are now starting their 2nd semester. It's February. You're probably, the students will get their grades from 1st semester back. So those are some nice final marks to go towards your eventual final offer. They may have already received a conditional acceptance, or maybe it's on the way very soon. As Megan said, in the next couple of weeks, the scholarship portal will open in the My Laurentian portal. So students can submit that application online. Apply to residence, as Sean said, you can do that now as well, also in your portal. And if you haven't come for that campus tour yet, you can still come for the campus tour. We offer them all year round. From March to June, it's a lot of the same. So keep up those grades, stay in your classes, don't get senioritis. It is easy to get there sometimes, but make sure you're maintaining that average. Again, come for the tour. I know I sound like a broken record, but it is a beautiful place to come check out. You might receive an acceptance a little later for some programs. And then you'll hear back about your scholarships during this period. So you'll have an idea of the money you're receiving towards your tuition next year. A couple important dates. January 12th has passed. So that was the UAC application deadline. From February 1st to 14th, this is for supplemental documentation. This applies to architecture applicants. So if you're not applying to architecture, don't worry. But if you have applied for architecture, you have 13 more days to get your portfolio together and have that submitted by the 14th, Valentine's Day. March 1st is the deadline, the official deadline to apply for scholarships. May 29th is the last day that you can hear back from Laurentian about your offer. So you will have an answer at that point. And then June 1st is the deadline to accept. So that's your final day to communicate back to the universities you've applied to about your decision. Even if you're waiting until the last minute, June 1st, that's okay. You still have 24 hours after that point to submit your residence application. So that is June 2nd. Take a picture of the slide if you need to. I know there's a lot of information. And then like Megan mentioned earlier, your OSAP application, we're recommending that you do that by June 19th. And that's just so you can have all your ducks in a row by the time September comes around. Finally, we have these summer months. So a lot is going to happen during this time period. At a certain point in mid-June to early July, your applicant portal, your My Laurentian portal, will look a little bit different. So it'll actually become your student portal. That's when you'll get access to your Laurentian email. So it's a Gmail account. That's when you can start selecting your courses in the self-service platform. So that's all going to happen towards the end of your grade 12 school year. You can purchase a parking pass if you're bringing a car to campus. You can purchase your meal plan if you're living in residence. You can order your one card, which is your student card. And this is going to give you access to a lot of different things on our campus, like the Great Hall, the Meal Hall. It'll be your printing services. It'll be your access into your residence building after a certain time. So that's all going to be on your student card. And a really big hint or tip I can give you is you can place your order for this card online during the summer instead of waiting until the beginning of September to do it in person, because the line gets a little bit long sometimes for the student card. But if you're doing it through the My Laurentian portal, you can actually take your own photo, choose a photo that you like, send it in, and then we will mail your card to you ahead of time. So a nice way to save yourself some time there. Towards the end of the summer, July, August, you're going to hear about your roommates in residence. If you are choosing to live in residence, you can make a group chat. You can start making your plans. Who wants to bring the microwave? Who wants to bring the mini fridge? Stuff like that. You will move into residence at the end of August. So usually around Labor Day weekend, maybe a little bit before or after. The first day of class comes after that. Usually it's a Wednesday. And then orientation week and welcome week is happening at that time. So our orientation team puts a big schedule together of all the different events that we offer that can help get you familiar with campus, meeting new people other than your roommates and your program friends. So I recommend going to all of that. As a transfer student even, it was a really great way for me to meet some of the Laurentian campus and the students around. So are there any questions on timelines? Anything from the online crowd?
I do have a couple questions, but I think Peter wants to intervene first.
No,
Sure.
just a quick note. All the timelines that we've placed on the screen are standardized. But if something changes, we will notify you. That is to say, there are a couple of programs that may have summer content, something like kinesiology, something like outdoor adventure leadership. They may have an outdoor school that will require you to move on campus a little bit earlier. We have your rooms set up for that purpose. You're not moving here blind. Everything is communicated to you specifically. So these dates are a guideline for the majority of students, but anything that's unique to your unique student's journey, we will communicate that to you directly. Okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Anything else online?
I have nothing concerning the dates per se, but I have more just general questions, I think, coming in, so we can hold on to these until the end. Although one of them is, when's the first day of school?
The first day of school, I don't have memorized. It's usually the Wednesday following the Labor Day weekend. If you look up Laurentian important dates, you'll be able to find the full listing there, unless someone knows it off the top of their head in the room.
It's also at the back of the parent guide.
Oh.
So in your booklet that you have in front of you, you go to the last page, and I'll actually say what the first. I'm pretty sure it's either the 5th or the 6th.
Thank you so much. It is the 6th of September. Awesome. Anything else? Anything that I can just maybe address now?
Yeah, well, we have quite a bit. So when is the move-in day for residents?
The move-in day for residents, I don't know if you even has residents determined. The Thursday. Yeah. So it's the Thursday before the first day of classes. Thursday before first day of classes, so that gives you about 6 days between move-in and then your first course.
All right.
Any other questions?
So between now and March 1st, you have to go into the applicant portal and submit your applications for the awards?
Yes. So
So accountability.
Yes.
So we'll send out an email once it's available. The deadline will be pushed back further than March 1st, just to allow
Okay.
extra weeks. So we'll communicate that.
Okay, so the question was with regards to timelines for scholarships. So because the portal has not yet opened, we will push the deadline back students will hear when it's time to apply for scholarships, they'll receive an email. And then the Fees and Financial Aid Office will outline the new date to submit that by, but it should be an ample amount of time. Anything else?
When should we submit letters for RESP?
That is a good question, Megan.
So usually in August is when they'll start sending the letters out to either the person who asked for it, will send them directly to the institution. So depending how your RESP is set up, it's important to kind of get familiarized with it because we have come across a lot of hiccups where it comes time to take the money out, but the bank isn't letting it because the student isn't full-time. So it's just these little things that were originally set up with the RESP that parents don't realize. So it's always best to get all of that sorted out at the beginning of August. So that once all the money comes in and everything's issued, then it will be issued for September.
So for the online listeners, Megan said early August to make sure that you can get everything sorted out, all the details before the school year begins.
When does the meal plan start?
When does the meal plan start? Like when can you begin accessing it? As soon as you move to campus, you can start using your student card that you pre-ordered and swipe into the meal hall.
Okay, a lot of these questions I'll hold on until later after this, but
Sure.
we'll get through this part first and then we'll continue.
Perfect. We have a general question period at the end too, so we'll just keep moving through these sections. So we got some of the questions there. Something I should also mention, between the months of June to September, we get a lot of people who are excited and looking forward to the next step and maybe wondering why they haven't heard anything from us yet. So if it's something that every student has to go through, like course selection, like paying their tuition, trust me, you're going to hear from us when the time comes. So just sit back and relax and know that it's coming your way. But if it's something more specific to your case, like a residence accommodation or maybe a meeting with the Accessibility Services Office, I would encourage you to reach out to that team and get that process started, just because it's going to get treated on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so the last little part here is tips on supporting your student. So this is for the parents. Be available and offer a listening ear. You want to stay in touch with what your student's doing during the year. They're going to do so many different events and courses they're going to be taking. Maybe they're going to the residence formal and you want to provide input on their outfit and things like that. When I was a first-year student and I moved away from home, my parents and I, we did a weekly FaceTime session. So 9 o'clock on Sundays. Sundays were usually quieter for me. I was just getting ready for the week, maybe doing some homework or some studying. So they would actually just call me on FaceTime at 9 and we would chat for a little bit, and it was nice knowing that that was coming throughout the week. Be prepared for rough patches. So everyone kind of hears that the transition from high school to university can be tough at times. There is a degree of truth to this. A lot of students do find just like the overall amount of information that's coming to them through their lectures that they're taking and the midterms that they have to study for is more than in high school, and that is a reality. But just know that your student is going to be so much farther ahead if they have you in their court, as opposed to maybe putting pressure on them and stressing them out. So when I was a first-year student, I was in biomedical science to begin, and I had to take all those first-year science courses. I was enrolled in first-year anatomy. I was a straight A student in high school. I thought I, had it in the bag. It was super easy. I studied the night before my midterm exam, walked in confident, walked out not so confident, got my grade back, and it was a 45. I failed. So that was a big learning lesson for me, obviously. I called my parents crying. I told them, I don't think this is the right program for me. I don't think I can do this. This is a lot. Clearly, it's a lot harder than I thought. And they were so understanding. They did not make me feel bad about that midterm. They actually started helping me study. So on our Sunday night calls, I sent them my slide decks that the professors literally used to teach us. And they would just quiz me on some of the stuff they saw on the slides. And that helped me develop the timing and the amount of effort it takes into studying for some of these tests. So I'm not going to tell you that I got 99s for the rest of the course after that, and I passed with a 96. I got a 70 on my next midterm, a 70 on my exam, and I passed the class. I graduated with honors, and I got into a master's program. So don't let little blips like that stress you out, because honestly, you have 4 years to make that up. And your grades will increase. I'm talking to the students, not the parents right now, but your grades will go up as you get used to post-secondary and studying for your university courses. For the parents, be strong, because if this is your last child you're sending off to post-secondary, maybe you're facing an empty nest at home, or maybe you have some more students to support as they finish high school. But this is a great chance for you to take up that class you were thinking about. go to yoga, maybe try some pottery, sign up for a golf membership with the local golf course, because you're gonna have more time for that kind of stuff now. And your life is also changing, but that doesn't mean you can't come and visit. If you're tuning in from Sudbury, I mean, you're gonna be close to here, but if you're sending your child to Sudbury away from home, you can come up and visit. There's always stuff to do. We have lots of activities in the fall around Halloween. You can go to Science North or Dynamic Earth. In the winter, you can go on that skating path. So there's always stuff to do in town. So I'm going to take this moment maybe to just introduce one of our staff people in our office, Mona. So Mona has been moderating throughout the session. She's also a parent of 2 Laurentian graduates, multi-time graduates. So she'll come chat with you very, very quickly.
Hi, I'm Mona Lapointe. I'm an enrollment clerk here at Laurentian University. I've been working here for 10 years in various capacities, but I'm also a very proud mother of 2 university graduates. So my oldest, he started with mechanical engineering, graduated and started working in his field, very successful. He recently married his beautiful wife, also a graduate of Laurentian. And as Peter alluded a while ago, they just had their first baby. So I'm a grandmother now for the first time. And my youngest son, who graduated from his undergrad, master's, and is currently doing his PhD all here at Laurentian, and is also engaged to a Laurentian grad as well. So yes, I'm a proud mother and employee here at Laurentian, and I know what it's like to have your kids starting university. And if anyone has any questions about what it's like to have your kids either go away or start, I mean, feel free to ask. If you don't want to ask it out here, you can always send us an email at info@laurentian.ca, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Tell us about Mikey's experiment.
Oh, gosh.
Come on.
My son Mikey started his program. He graduated from biomedical physics, did his master's. In his PhD program, he's working on with radiation, and his experiment went up in space with the Artemis shuttle not too long ago. And he's also working in the snow lab, and someone from NASA just came down not too long ago and he was showing them what he does in the snow lab. So yes, that's, I obviously talk a lot about him because they all know what he does.
Awesome. Thank you, Mona. And as Mona mentioned, she'll be here in person after the session if you have some questions from her. She does offer a different experience than some of us or I do, putting 2 students through university. And she also monitors our info@laurentian.ca inbox. So if you do send an email there, you are also very likely to hear back from Mona. Okay, so that's all we have. Thank you so much for tuning in for the entire session. If you leave the session and 5 minutes later think of a question, send us an email, info@laurentian.ca, or give us a phone call. You can see it there, take note. Come for that campus tour, as I've said many times. And then we also have a spring open house happening on Saturday, March 11th. So this is a great opportunity to come again for our campus tour. You can check out our service fair, see more of our departments on campus. There's going to be some clubs there so students can have an idea of how they want to get involved next year. And then you can also tune into some mock lectures so you can actually see what a university lecture setting looks like. So I want you to look back at the question you wrote way at the start of the session and see, did you learn what you were hoping to learn during the session? If we answered your question, wonderful. But if we didn't, now is the time to ask. So are there any more questions? I know there's some online. Anything in the room? No?
While you think of those, there's always one person that has one question, and then we're here till 9:30. I just want to take a minute to thank the panelists who came tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for helping everyone understand their journey to Laurentian University. And thank you for coming tomorrow night as well for the Francophone session. Thank you so much. And to my staff for being here tonight to help with everything. Genuinely, if you have questions, we are here to answer them. There is no silly question. There's no little questions. You have to ask them while they're.
Wonderful. Oh, yeah. Oh, we have a couple. Okay. How about in the back to start?
So I have to use this. So I'm just thinking about the goal. What was goal for? Just for break up your.
Yeah.
Or
So it depends on the type of program you're looking at. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get some experiential hands-on learning. Certain programs will have co-ops. So that's like you can do it in engineering, computer science, business, stuff like that. Other programs have mandatory placements. So for something like nursing or education, you will be getting some experience in the hospital or in the classroom as part of your program. And then some of the other programs, like look at the sciences or the arts, psychology, those will have, like Eric mentioned earlier, you can do internships, you can do paid placements as a TA or something like that. You can take on a thesis in your fourth year if you'd like. So those are all opportunities that students can get as part of their degree programs. They just have different descriptions depending on the kind of program that it is. It depends on the program entirely. So for like, say a psychology student is doing their thesis, they could do that throughout the school year, but maybe they are doing a paid internship on campus during the summer kind of thing. So it really does differ. But if you want to chat about a specific program after, we can definitely do that too at the end.
A
Yeah.
really good example, for our engineering programs, there is a co-op that can be built into the program. We had a student who came here from Burkina Faso. He was doing mining engineering specifically. He was offered a co-op to be able to go to British Columbia. He spent 8 months in BC, and at the end of his co-op, they actually offered him a 1-year contract to help oversee a project that was happening. So he put his studies on hold, was paid for his co-op, was then paid for 1 year, and then picked up where he left off in that position. So co-ops can be very, very technical, and they can provide a lot of experience. But that term co-op, internship, placement, whatever it is, it all relates to that hands-on experience the students can get in the discipline they're interested in.
To my comment earlier about post-secondary not always being linear, I always tell people do the co-op because you make money, you learn, and then you go back and you finish your studies, and often you already have experience to put on your resume, a potential reference, and maybe that same manager will hire you back. So it never hurts to take some of those opportunities, even if it adds a year or two. There was a question at the front here.
So your open house is March 11th, but the deadline to apply for the awards on March 1st.
So the open house will be March 11th. Megan mentioned earlier, it'll probably get pushed back, that scholarship deadline of the 1st. So your student will hear once we have a date set. Yeah. And that open house is open to anyone who wants to attend. So don't worry about where you're at in the process. Any more questions? Anything from online?
Yes. Right here, I see a question. Are you allowed to choose your roommates or ask for a preference? People who are taking a similar program as you?
Yes. So if you do have someone in mind that you want to room with, you can add that as a note in your residence application and tell your peer, your friend to also do that. Just so both of you are in agreement that you want to live together. And then in situations where you don't have someone you want to live with, they'll do their best to match you with someone in a similar program to you, maybe not necessarily the same, so that you do have slightly different schedules and you don't see each other every waking hour of the day. But when it comes time to studying for midterms and different projects coming up, often they find that students in similar programs have similar schedules. So they might have a lull and then more assignments and stuff due, and then another lull, but they kind of just understand each other's schedules. So that's how they'll pair people together for residence.
All right, another question coming from online. I read a little bit about flex dollars, and the website says that it can be used at different services. Can you explain just a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So for your meal plan, that's like Sean talked about, there's a set amount of meals on your student card that will swipe you into the meal hall, the Great Hall. But then we also have the other food services. So we have the Tim Hortons, we have Subway, we have like a blend station with different Indian food, we have bubble tea. So there's so many different other kind of stores or food vendors that you can buy from. And if you have money loaded onto your student card, you can use those flex dollars instead of paying with your debit or credit card or something like that.
On March 11th, can we tour the residences?
Absolutely, you can. We will have residence tours for anyone that wants to see them. Good question.
Is there any ability to study abroad for any programs right now?
So we do have an LU Go program. It was put on pause during COVID-19 during the pandemic. And I know there are talks to slowly ramp it up again. So if you go online, there is a page dedicated to LU Go, and there'll be some contact information there. So reach out and you can chat with them about what that might look like in the next couple of years.
So one thing with international opportunities as well, if you want to go abroad, another great resource in that area would be your faculty member, and not necessarily for an exchange, but for an experience. So maybe it's presenting research or accompanying a faculty member who is doing some of this research with a group of your peers, or it's working with science or Nursing Without Borders, and you're going to another country to help out with local first aid or whatever kind of effect, whatever other effort you may want to put forward. There are all kinds of different programmatic opportunities that are not just here on campus for students to pursue.
Another question coming from online. What's the best way to choose the meal plan that's for me?
So our recommended method of action is to start with the smallest plan if you're unsure, and only upgrade if you need, because you can always upgrade your plan to have a higher tier with more meals, but it's hard to get rid of them at the end of the year, and you can't downgrade your plan. So start with a light eater. I believe Sean told me that the other day, that's what he chose. And then if you do find you're running short and you're running out of meals midway through the year, just upgrade your plan at that point in time.
And that is everything from the online audience.
Everything from online. Anything else from in person?
Sorry, one thing just came in.
Sure.
I know University College Residence is not open this school year. Do we know if it has been confirmed as an option for next fall?
I don't know if it's been confirmed, but it has been confirmed. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So yes, so UC will be open next year.
Nothing else, unless there's another last minute question.
We can give the online folks even some time to type out their questions. If people have places to be, feel free to go. But thank you everyone so much for joining us this evening in person and online. This has been an awesome session. I hope you left learning a little bit more, and we hope to see you next year, you and your student. Do you want to just keep monitoring? Do you want to just keep monitoring for questions?
Yeah.
You're welcome. Have a great evening. Do you want to just bring it here and I'll stand here with the questions in case you get any?
The attendance is down to like 20 people. So.
See you Friday coming for a tour. That is so exciting. Hope to see you soon.
Great job.
For those who are still in the call, we are still here taking questions. So if you'd like to ask, go ahead.
Thankfully, it was under warranty this time.
Ça c'est Pierre. Pierre. Pierre.
Pick it over.
Yeah.
I can see your question, Joanne. If you belong to the French Student Association, can you still take part in the SGA activities? How this exactly works out is that typically you would have to pay an additional fee, and sometimes like an event like Welcome Week is organized by the SGA, but it ends up being that any student can participate during these events. But how it does end up working out is because of how like the financial structure of these associations are, it sometimes ends up, what are you doing?
I'm just turning on your camera.
Okay, sorry. But to continue with the answer, so sometimes there may be an additional fee to partake in specific activities, but in most cases, you are free to can participate in any activities, but an SGA member will be there to let you know if there's anything in specific that you aren't allowed to participate in or allowed to participate in. But all events would be completely free if you were part of specifically like
I shouldn't give you this.
so this specifically for the rugby team, this would be an intramural sport, which isn't necessarily organized by one or the other membership. So you can be part of the rugby team just as being like a student, and you can register, and there is no specific denomination whether you have to be part of the SGA or the IRF.
I believe rugby as a club is also independent of the student association, so they're more a recreation-based club, and so there wouldn't be as many restrictions for those as with student clubs. But my understanding is the French and English student associations have been working together a lot the past few years, so usually exceptions can be made all the time.
Our first year students are able to get into a single room. You have when you write out your application for residence, you are allowed the choice to choose between a double or a single room. But what ends up happening is the single rooms are done on a lottery basis. You can ask for a specific accommodation if you're looking to get a single room, but it has to be for a credible reason. But if not, it is left up to a lottery system between all of the first year students.
I would say the sooner you submit your residence application, the more likely to get one. So get on that as soon as you can.
We'll leave the floor open for maybe another 5 minutes as there are other questions coming in, but after that, we will be closing the session for this evening. But if you ever have any other questions or something burning, we have our email open at info@laurentian.ca. We can actually put it in the chat right here for everyone to see. But if you email that, it'll get to the rest of the Laurentian recruitment team, and you'll be able to contact us if you have any further questions after the session. Students.
Our students guaranteed a parking pass on the main level rather than the pit. So it's not a guarantee for parking passes. So I would recommend as soon as that opens, usually it's mid-July, buy your pass. It's not super competitive to get the lot that you want, but do it early just so you're not risking anything.
Because currently with capacity as it is right now, we do have ample space for students to be able to choose the lot that they are looking for. But the sooner we get into a school year, or if we're expecting a larger intake in a year, the parking passes will go very quickly and may get stuck only being available in the pit. So if you are looking to get one of these more prime parking spaces, it is definitely an incentive to start earlier and apply for it.
Next question, if a student has their own car, can they get a reimbursement from student fees because they won't be using the city bus? So this is a conversation to have with your student association because the fee does go through them, and they will have specific criteria for people to opt out of their bus pass. So chat with them and see what they can offer you, whether it's the SGA for English students or the AEF for French. But they will be able to talk more about those processes for opting out. Good questions, though. We'll give it maybe 30 more seconds if someone is typing out a question, and then we will end the session. Okay, so seeing none, we will call the session there. But again, if you think of something 5 minutes from now, send an email to info@laurentian.ca and we will answer it, probably not tonight, but in the morning. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.